Stop planting the same shrubs, the ones sitting in your garden right now, the ones every neighbour has, the ones garden centres have been pushing for 15 years. The plant world has moved past them. 2026 just released 7 new bushes that outperform everything you've been reaching for, and the gardeners who already know about them are quietly clearing the shelves. These aren't just new names. Deeper colour, stronger heat tolerance, longer bloom seasons, tighter growth habits. 7 brand new 2026 bushes, counted down to the one you absolutely cannot miss before they sell out. These aren't old varieties with a fresh label slapped on them. Every bush on this list was specifically developed or significantly improved for the conditions you're dealing with right now. Longer, hotter summers, unpredictable rainfall, and gardens that need to perform without constant babying. These are the real 2026 releases worth your money and your garden space. And before we count them down, hit subscribe, because this channel covers the plant releases that actually matter, the honest reviews, and the garden decisions that move the needle. Number 7. And before you think 7 means throwaway, it doesn't. Every bush on this countdown earned its place. We're starting here because Deutzia Yuki Cherry Blossom registered trademark is the kind of spring finisher that bridges the gap right into summer's edge, and it's one of the cleanest compact shrubs to come out of the breeding programs in recent years. Here's what separates this from the old Deutzias you might have crossed paths with before. The older varieties were gangly, they bloomed, and then you were left with an awkward leggy plant that occupied space without giving you much in return. Yuki Cherry Blossom doesn't do that. It stays compact, topping out at around 2 feet tall and spreading to roughly 3 feet wide. That is a tidy, well-behaved shrub that fits into almost any garden situation without demanding a complete redesign of your beds. The flowers are where this plant earns its place in any garden. They open white, carrying a genuine blush of pink at the petal edges. Soft, delicate, almost like cherry blossom petals reproduced at a smaller scale, and this plant doesn't throw out a scattered handful of blooms and consider the season done. It covers itself. You get a full, almost smothering flush of flowers that dresses the entire plant from top to bottom. The bloom period lands in spring and stretches toward the edge of early summer, which is exactly the window where it functions as a bridge, giving your garden a spectacular finish to spring before your summer performers take over. What happens after bloom is also worth noting. The foliage doesn't yellow, doesn't look worn out, doesn't collapse into something you want to hide behind taller plants. The leaves hold clean, healthy green that makes the shrub look like a deliberate, well-considered garden choice all the way through the warm months. From a care standpoint, this plant is not demanding. Full sun to partial shade, cold hardy down to zone 5, and once it's established, it handles dry spells without drama. It is a plant that gives you a lot without asking for much in return. The reason it opens the countdown, and only opens it, is timing. We're entering summer and Yuki Cherry Blossom has already peaked for this season. Its greatest moment is spring. That means planting one right now is an investment in next year's show, not this one. Every other bush ahead of it on this list is actively performing through the summer months you're walking into. But don't let the ranking mislead you. This is still a plant worth tracking down while nursery stock lasts, because the 2026 crop is moving. Number 6. Loropetalum Plum Gorgeous. And the name is not an exaggeration. This one genuinely delivers what it promises. There's a good chance you've tried a Loropetalum before and walked away underwhelmed. Maybe the colour faded in the summer heat. Maybe the plant grew unevenly, or it never looked the way it did in the catalogue photograph. Those frustrations are real, and they come from real limitations in older Loropetalum varieties. Plum Gorgeous was bred to address exactly those problems, and the 2026 crop shows you the result. The foliage hits you first, and it hits you hard. Deep, rich plum purple, the kind of colour that reads as intentional from across the garden. What older Loropetalum varieties couldn't consistently promise was that this colour would hold through summer heat. Many of them flushed a vibrant purple in spring and then faded to a muddy brownish-green tone the moment temperatures climbed into the summer range. Plum Gorgeous holds its colour. That deep plum stays saturated through the hottest months of the year, which means you have a foliage plant that actually earns its garden real estate all season long. Not just in April, not just in photographs taken in spring. The flowers come in hot pink, close to magenta, and they arrive in spring with occasional repeat blooms scattered through the rest of the year. Against that dark plum foliage, the visual effect is striking in a way that's hard to replicate with other plants. It photographs beautifully, and it looks even better standing in front of it in person. Size is more restrained on Plum Gorgeous than on many older Loropetalum selections. You're looking at a plant that reaches approximately 4 to 6 feet tall and wide at maturity. That's manageable for most residential garden spaces, and easily maintained tighter with light pruning. It won't swallow your entire bed the way the large form old varieties would. This plant performs in zones 7 through 10. It handles heat, it handles humidity. Once established, it tolerates dry conditions reasonably well. For gardeners in the south, the southeast, or the southwest, this is a year-round foliage anchor that earns every inch of space it occupies and then some. It sits at number 6 because it's primarily a foliage performer rather than a summer bloomer. Its flowers have come and largely gone by the time summer arrives. The list from here forward rewards plants that are actively, visually working for you as temperatures climb, but as a structural, colour-driven shrub that holds its ground through the heat. Plum Gorgeous is exceptional, and if you're in a compatible zone, the 2026 crop is worth chasing down. Number 5. Physocarpus Panther Ninebark. This one is for gardeners who want genuine drama in the garden without the high maintenance that drama usually demands. Ninebark has been a staple in the landscape world for a long time. It's tough, adaptable, and it has that textural, peeling bark that makes it interesting even when nothing is in bloom. But the older cultivars, the ones that became ubiquitous, had a consistent problem. They got large. They spread wider than most people planned for, and the foliage colour that looks so striking in spring often softened or faded by midsummer, right when you need the most impact from your plants. Panther Ninebark changes both of those things in one variety. The foliage on this plant is exceptionally dark, nearly black-purple when the light hits it at the right angle, and a deep, rich burgundy purple the rest of the time. What sets it apart from older dark-leaved ninebarks is that it holds this depth of colour through the entire growing season. You're not going to watch it fade to a dull, washed-out olive burgundy by July. It stays dark. It stays bold. And that consistency creates a plant that works as a contrast partner for almost everything else in your garden. Chartreuse grasses, bright summer annuals, silver-leaved perennials, pale roses. The Panther Ninebark makes all of them look more deliberate by standing behind them in near black. The size is more controlled than the older generation of ninebarks. Panther stays in the range of 5 to 6 feet tall and around 4 feet wide. That is a substantial shrub, one that creates real presence and structure, but it's a scale you can actually plan around without worrying that it will take over the entire bed within 3 seasons. The natural habit is upright with a slight arch, which reads as architectural rather than unruly. In early summer, clusters of small white flowers with a soft blush of pink appear along the branches. They are attractive rather than dramatic, a nice seasonal contrast against the near-black foliage. But the real performance of this plant is in the leaves, and that performance runs from the moment they unfurl in spring all the way through fall, when the foliage shifts into warm russet tones before dropping. Panther Ninebark is cold hardy to zone 3, one of the most cold-tolerant plants on this entire list. It handles heat, clay soils, compacted soils, drought once established, and even periodic wet conditions better than most ornamental shrubs. It is one of the most adaptable woody plants you can put in the ground, and the Panther improvement makes that toughness come packaged with real style. Planted in full sun for the darkest, most saturated foliage. Partial shade will still produce good colour, but sun is where Panther performs at its absolute best. There are 4 plants ahead of it on this countdown that are going to earn your attention even more urgently as summer progresses. But do not overlook this one. Number 4, Spiraea Double Play Dolly. And this is the point in the countdown where things start getting genuinely exciting for summer gardeners. Spireas have been in gardens so long they've become wallpaper. Gold flame, gold mound, the endless variations of the pink and yellow combination. They're reliable, yes, but they've become invisible. Experienced gardeners walk past them without registering them. Nobody gets excited. Nobody asks what they are. Double Play Dolly is the variety that's going to put spireas back into the conversation, and it's going to do it by doing something no spirea has done quite this well before. The foliage on this plant is warm, golden orange when it first emerges in spring. Electric, almost luminous in the early season, the kind of color that makes you look twice. As summer arrives and temperatures build, those leaves transition into a rich golden yellow that holds through the heat without burning out or fading to a tired lime. Then, in fall, you get a return of that orange-red warmth before the plant goes dormant. 3 distinct and striking foliage seasons from a single shrub. And right through the middle of all of that, running through the core of summer while the leaves are at their golden peak, this plant covers itself in deep, vivid pink flowers. That combination, saturated pink blooms set against golden foliage, is one of the most visually arresting pairings you'll find in any shrub category. It creates a warmth and vibrancy in the garden that photographs beautifully and looks even better in person. The plant itself is compact, staying in the range of 2 to 3 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide. It's appropriate for smaller gardens, container planting, front of border placement, or massed in groups for a long sweep of summer color. It holds its shape without demanding constant pruning. Full sun brings out the best foliage color and the heaviest bloom set. It tolerates a range of soils, handles heat well, and once established, it doesn't require constant attention. Cold hardy to zone 3, which makes it one of the most broadly adaptable plants on this entire list. The 2026 stock of Double Play Dolly is new enough that most garden centres received it in limited quantities. This isn't the oversaturated spirea of 20 years ago. You're getting something fresh, something that performs all summer, and still backed by the bulletproof resilience of the spirea family. Before we move into the top 3, which is where this countdown takes a real turn, drop a comment and tell me, are you planting shrubs primarily for blooms, for foliage colour, or do you need both? Because the next 3 plants are going to change what you think a summer shrub is capable of delivering. Number 3. And this is where this countdown shifts into something genuinely special. Hydrangea Lava Lamp trademark. Say that name out loud because it earns it completely. Hydrangeas are everywhere. Every garden centre, every box store, every gardening magazine. So when a new hydrangea earns a spot this high on a list, it has to do something the thousands of other hydrangeas on the market cannot. Lava Lamp does exactly that, and it does it by breaking one of the oldest rules of the hydrangea world. Most hydrangeas start white and blush toward pink as they age. Beautiful, but after years of it, predictable. Lava Lamp runs the colour sequence in the opposite direction, and that changes everything about how this plant reads in the garden. It opens its blooms in a deep, saturated red. Not reddish pink, not a warm blush. A genuine dark, warm red that sits close to burgundy in its earliest stage. As summer moves forward and the blooms age on the plant, they transition through shades of rose and pink, eventually fading toward cream. At any moment during the bloom season, you have flowers at multiple stages on the same plant simultaneously. Deep red, rose pink, soft cream, all at once. The effect is like lava in motion. The name earns itself every day this plant is in flower. The bloom season runs from midsummer through fall. That is the window where most gardens start running out of colour. Other shrubs finish their show in June. Perennials are fading. Lava Lamp is hitting its stride in August. That bloom longevity is one of the most practical arguments for choosing it. It fills the gap that almost every other ornamental shrub leaves open. It's a panicle hydrangea, which makes it tougher and more adaptable than the mop-head varieties most people are accustomed to. It blooms on new wood, which means no anxious pruning decisions. Hard prune it in late winter, and it comes back loaded. It handles full sun far better than most hydrangeas. It tolerates summer heat. It's cold hardy to zone 3. At maturity, expect to plant around 4 to 5 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide. A bold, mid-sized shrub that creates real presence in the garden without becoming unmanageable. Consistent moisture during the first growing season, while roots establish, then largely leave it alone and watch what it does. This is the hydrangea for gardeners who are tired of the same white to pink story every summer. The one that makes the decision easy, the one that fills the late season gap, and the one that still hasn't hit the level of ubiquity where seeing it feels ordinary. That window is closing, stock is limited, and once gardeners discover what Lava Lamp does in August, word spreads fast. Number 2. The reason this plant sits at number 2 on a summer countdown comes down to one straightforward fact. It was built specifically for the season you're walking into. Buddleja Pugster Blue. And before you think you already know butterfly bushes, hear this out, because Pugster Blue is not the plant that gave butterfly bushes a complicated reputation. Those older varieties were beautiful, but enormous. 8 feet, 10 feet, sprawling and arching in every direction. In some regions, they seeded aggressively into natural areas, which put the entire category under a cloud. That reputation made plenty of gardeners walk past the butterfly bush section entirely. Pugster Blue solves the problem that caused it. This is a compact butterfly bush. It tops out at 3 to 4 feet tall and about the same wide, a fraction of the footprint of the old varieties. And here's the part that surprises people. It doesn't sacrifice performance to get there. The blooms on Pugster Blue are actually larger than those produced by many standard butterfly bushes. The lavender blue flower spikes are long, dense, and produced in quantities that cover the plant from top to base. And they don't stop. From early summer through the first hard frost, this plant is in bloom, right now, through August, through September, into October. That is a bloom season that most shrubs, most perennials even, cannot match. The colour sits in that lavender blue range, cool-toned, close to periwinkle in certain light conditions. It pairs beautifully with warm-toned garden companions, yellow rudbeckias, orange heleniums, the golden spirea from earlier in this countdown. The contrast between the cool blue of the blooms and warm-toned neighbours is a combination that works in photographs and even better in person. And then there's the wildlife dimension. Pugster Blue is a pollinator destination. Butterflies are the well-known attraction, but bees, hummingbirds, and a wide range of beneficial insects treat this shrub like a landmark. They come back to it day after day through the entire growing season. For gardeners building a space that functions ecologically as well as visually, this plant does genuine work. Full sun is non-negotiable for maximum bloom production. It handles heat. It handles drought once established. Cold hardy to zone 5, and the compact habit means it holds its shape through the season without flopping or sprawling the way the old butterfly bushes would. The 2026 stock of Pugster Blue has been moving fast at nurseries that received it. The combination of compact size, oversized blooms, and season-long colour makes it work for small space gardeners, large border designers, container enthusiasts, and pollinator gardeners alike. It fits almost every garden situation, which is exactly why it's already in short supply in many areas. Track it down before midsummer, because by the time August arrives, it will be one of the harder plants to find on a nursery shelf. Number 1. The bush that earns the top spot on a summer countdown isn't always the loudest entry on the list. Sometimes it's the one that solves the problem nobody else has solved, the one that works hardest when everything around it has given up. Caryopteris, Hint of Gold. This is the 2026 release that deserves every bit of the attention it's about to receive. Here is the problem it solves. Late summer is the quiet collapse of most gardens. By August, the spring bloomers finished weeks ago, the early summer perennials have faded, and you are left with a lot of foliage and very little flower. Green is fine. Green is not a garden. Most shrubs have nothing to offer you in August and September. They've finished their season, and they're just taking up space while you wait for fall. Hint of Gold gives you a completely different August. This plant blooms in late summer. Deep, vivid, blue-violet flowers, the kind of true blue that is genuinely rare in the plant world, even rarer in shrubs, appear in dense clusters all along the stems from August through October. Not purple blue, not lavender, blue, real blue. And it produces those flowers in such abundance that the plant covers itself in them, creating a mass of colour at precisely the moment your garden needs it most. But here is what makes Hint of Gold different from every other caryopteris on the market, and what places it at the top of this list. The foliage. Standard caryopteris are grey-green. Fine, unobtrusive, serviceable when the plant is in flower, and forgettable when it isn't. Hint of Gold has bright, golden yellow foliage that glows in the garden from the first moment the leaves emerge in spring. Not lime green, not chartreuse. A warm, genuine gold that catches light in a way that makes the plant impossible to ignore, even before a single flower appears. When those blue flowers arrive in late summer against that golden foliage, the contrast is electric. Deep blue against warm gold is one of the most visually powerful plant combinations that exists in the ornamental world, and Hint of Gold delivers it on a single shrub, at peak timing, when your garden is desperate for exactly that kind of energy. It is one of those plant combinations that makes experienced gardeners stop walking and stand still for a moment. The plant stays compact, around 2 to 3 feet tall and approximately the same wide. It's suited for the front or middle of a border for container planting where the golden foliage reads beautifully all season, or for massing in groups of 3 where you get a wave of late-season colour that carries the entire garden through to frost. Full sun is essential. This plant loves heat. It is drought-tolerant once established, cold hardy to zone 5, and it holds a naturally tidy, mounded habit that rarely needs pruning to look intentional. The pollinators that found Pugster Blue in early summer will follow the season directly to Hint of Gold as temperatures peak and begin to ease. These two plants together create a pollinator corridor that runs from early summer all the way through hard frost. That is a garden design decision that is both visually stunning and ecologically meaningful, one that takes 2 plants and creates a season-long wildlife habitat while delivering some of the best late summer colour available anywhere in the shrub category. The reason Hint of Gold takes the top spot is exactly this. It performs when everything else has stopped. Your garden in August and September is a direct reflection of how thoughtfully you planned for the long season. Most gardeners plant for spring and early summer, and then spend July wondering why the garden looks exhausted. One plant, this one, changes that calculation entirely. It gives you colour, it gives you structure, it gives you a pollinator magnet, and it does all of it during the weeks when the garden needs it most, and most shrubs have nothing to offer. The 2026 stock of Hint of Gold caryopteris has been one of the standout releases at wholesale nurseries this year. Retail availability is limited, and the gardeners who have already discovered it are not letting their plants go back to the shelf. Find it now, plant it this month, and by August you will understand exactly why it opened at number 1. 7 bushes, all released or significantly improved for 2026, all performing. Through the summer you are walking into right now. These are not the shrubs your neighbour already has. These are the ones your neighbour is going to be standing at the fence asking you about next summer, wondering what you did differently. The plant world does not slow down, and the best time to get ahead of it is before everyone else catches on. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a new release, an honest plant breakdown, or a garden decision that actually moves the needle on your outdoor space. And go find these plants while they're still findable, because summer does not wait, and neither do the nurseries.